The Three-Legged Cat by Margaret Mayhew. There was once an old Tommy Cat called Tom who longed to prowl around the world. He longed to see seas and valleys and wild mysterious woods as well. Most of all, he longed for that sea. But Tom was a three-legged cat. Prowling was difficult with only 3 legs. What he was good at was curling up neatly, wrapping his tabby tail around himself, and going to sleep. As he slept, though, he dreamed of the wide world, and his paws twitched. Tom lived with the short-sighted Mrs. Gimble of No. 7 Cardinham Street. She was a most respectable widow. She liked cats, but she liked them best when they curled up and slept. It bothered her to see Tom come running, or Dot come in May whenever she opened the fridge. "You'll eat me out of house and home," she said. She wanted a cat who would stay put and eat nothing. She certainly didn't want a prowler. "One prowler in the family is quite enough," said Mrs. Gimble, for she had a rascally roving swagman brother called Cyril. All year he prowled up and down, in and out of the edges of the world, wearing his revolting, molting Russian hat. Once a year he would look in on at No. 7 Cardinham Street for a cup of tea and a bit of a chin wag. Oh dear, Mrs. Gimble knew the neighbours would be watching as that revolting, molting Russian hat came up the street. "Yes," she grumbled to Tom, "one prowler is quite enough." Tom wrapped himself with his own tabby tail. He dreamed of prowling beside the sea. In his dream, the sea was pink and fizzy. He dreamed of forests and fields of sheep. In his dreams, the forests were no higher than the hedges, and the sheep ran about like woolly hedgehogs. "Thank goodness Tom isn't one of those prowling cats," thought Mrs. Gimble. "I'm glad he only has 3 legs." Then she heard a familiar step on the path. Horror Potchkin! A molting, revolting Russian hat was coming up the path to her door. It was Cyril the swagman. What would the neighbours say? Knock, knock, went the door. "Hello, Daisy! How about a cup of tea and a chin wag?" cried Cyril. Mrs. Gimble looked anxiously out the window. Her neighbours didn't prowl, but they did pry. "Suppose they see there's a swagman sitting here having a cup of tea and a chin wag." Hastily she drew the curtains. As Cyril poured tea into his saucer so it would cool quickly, Mrs. Gimble told him all about a new furniture polish she'd discovered in a sale, and Cyril told her how to prowl successfully during earthquakes. But Mrs. Gimble hated the idea of earthquakes, and Cyril, who had no furniture, was not in the least bit interested in furniture polish. "Well, time to be on the way," said Cyril at last. He picked up his hat, but it wasn't his hat. Out onto the street he strolled, wearing Tom, the three-legged cat. Curved around his bald head sound asleep. "Goodbye, old girl," he called back to Mrs. Gimble. "I'll be back next year for a cup of tea and a bit of a chin wag." And off went Cyril the swagman, and with him Tom, the three-legged cat. "My hat is deliciously warm," Cyril thought as he marched down the road. "My bald head feels so cosy. I could prowl all the way around the world wearing a hat as warm as this." Tom the cat woke to find he was wrapped snugly around a bald head and riding down the road. There, right in front of him, was the beginning of the country. He saw hedges, he saw hawks, he even saw hedgehogs, and fields full of sheep. The world stretched all the way to the edge of the sky. I'm seeing the world at last, Tom thought in amazement. He wrapped his tabby tail more firmly around Cyril's ears. The wide world is so much wider than I thought it was. This air is so much warmer than I thought it was, muttered Cyril the Swagman, walking up and over the hill. Then Tom the cat saw the sea for the first time. It was not pink, it was green. It was not fuzzy. It rolled backwards and forwards all the way around the world. The sea, thought Tom the cat. I am seeing the sea. He began to purr. That is purring, thought Cyril the Swagman. It's never purred before. A tabby tail twitched in front of his eyes. Horror, Botchkin! I've carried off Daisy's three-legged cat, cried Cyril the Swagman. It's just as well I have enough sausages for two of us. Meanwhile, back at number 7 Cardinal Street, Mrs. Gimble was sitting by the fire stroking the hat. It was very still, and when she opened the fridge, the hat did not stir. It just sat there, melting slightly. My cat is suddenly cheap to feed, thought Mrs. Gimble. The hat did not show the least bit of interest, even when she ate her own fish dinner. Out in the wide world, Cyril and Tom were sharing their sausages. I won't settle down after all. You can call around my bald head and keep it cosy, while I do the prowling for both of us. I've never had a better hat than a funny three-legged cat. And I've never had a better cat, said Mrs. Gimble, stroking the Russian hat. It's true that it molts, but we all have our faults, and it's cheap and always asleep. The world beckoned. Tom purred. The hat just sat on Mrs. Gimble's lap, and everyone lived happily ever